very much on the inside of Trump world, who is kind of very adept at getting things done and kind of has said he can get these plans directly into the hands of Donald Trump.
And why you, a British news organization, Center for Climate Reporting, why you're so interested in Project 2025 and why you felt, your team felt it was essential to be undercover as you continue to, even you as head of the organization, not wanting to show your face.
We're a global organisation. Like, we're registered in the UK, but we've got reporters in New York, Berlin, and London. And this really was part of a project that we'd started a few months ago, looking at populist movements around the world. And this investigation actually started by looking at the populist movements in Europe. There's just been some big European elections, and the populist parties in Europe have really kind of come to power and have kind of got much more influence in the European Union at the moment. And so our investigation actually started there. But these are international movements. There's huge transatlantic links. So the leads that we were following from Europe actually led to Washington, D.C. and Project 2025. And it's at that point that the project has become more focused on Project 2025. Now, in terms of the undercover aspect, undercover's got a very long and respected history, actually, including in the US. You can go back to the golden age of investigative journalism with Nellie Bly, who went undercover at a New York sanatorium to expose brutal conditions there. More recently, Shane Bauer from Mother Jones went undercover at a max security prison to expose the conditions there. Even CNN has done undercover reporting in recent years on a brilliant report on people smuggling in Nigeria. Sometimes it's the only way to get the story, and that was the case here. They're going to great lengths to keep this aspect of Project 2075 secret. You can see from Croft's comments there that they don't want the American public to see what they're doing. That's why they're they're avoiding work emails, for example, in how to distribute these plans. And so sometimes, you could get a whistleblower maybe, but kind of, in this case, we felt that going undercover was the only way in which we were going to get this story. And so we weighed up the kind of the public interest arguments in favour of doing so with the kind of, the reasonable expectation of privacy that an individual has. And in this case, we felt that there was an overwhelming public interest in going undercover and kind of revealing the way in which a kind of largely dark money funded network of organizations with kind of quite radical plans that are unpopular, if you poll them, are seeking to enact that agenda. And why is a climate organization doing all this? Well, the fossil fuel industry is kind of obviously a major focus of investigative organizations like mine that work on climate. But if you look at actually the sort of key threats to much needed kind of action on climate change, the rise of the populist right around the world is just as important in our view. And so that's kind of was the genesis of this project. We start kind of looking at those movements and the threat that they pose.
I want to get your response to the statement issued Thursday by Russell Vote's nonprofit, the Center for Renewing America, which downplayed your undercover video and said it didn't reveal anything new. Spokesperson Rachel Cawley said, quote, "It would have been easier just to do a Google search to uncover what is already on our website and said in countless national media interviews, but thank you for airing our perfect conversation. Emphasizing our policy work is totally separate from the Trump campaign, as we have been saying," she said. Your response, Lawrence Carter?
Yeah, they would say that, wouldn't they? It's clear from the recordings that they are actively seeking to keep this stuff secret. So again, going back to the comments from their research director, Nika Meadowcroft, they don't want people to know what's in these plans. They don't want them to know what they're working on. And so what we found was that they're seeking to keep it secret from the American public ahead of the election. They don't want people to see this before they vote. But crucially, the actual details of how they're going to go about doing these things, we now know that there's 350 documents. Mika Meadowcroft said there's a big stack of them waiting to be handed into transition teams. The other crucial thing that we've kind of established, which is kind of very much not what they're saying publicly, is that there's this very strong relationship with both the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself. Project 2025 has insisted it's separate from the Trump operation. The Trump campaign has disavowed Project 2025. But here we have Russell Vought. He oversaw the GOP platform. He's a former Trump cabinet member. He told us he speaks with Trump regularly. He's writing the party platform for this year's election, whilst at the same time overseeing this kind of pipeline of documents, blueprints for the next administration as part of Project 2025. And that's certainly not something that they would talk about in public. So, yeah.
Very interesting that Kevin Roberts, the head of the Heritage Foundation, has this new book coming out, Dawn's Early Light, Taking Back Washington to Save America, with a foreword by none other than President Trump's vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance. Politico writes, J.D. Vance, the Republican vice presidential nominee, has written the foreword to the forthcoming book. In March, Roberts told Politico Senator Vance was, quote, absolutely going to be one of the leaders, if not the leader of our movement. After Vance was named as Trump's running mate, Roberts said the Heritage Foundation had been privately, quote, really rooting for him to be the pick, even though Trump's campaign, of course, has disavowed any connection to Project 2025. Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of also borne out by our conversations with Russell Vought and Mika Meadowcroft. They're very excited about the JD Vance pick, and it's because they see him as one of them. And so, yeah, they've got Vought's got a very good relationship with Trump. He's got a great relationship with the Trump campaign, actively collaborating with the Trump campaign on earned media hits, for example, which the Trump campaign sought to convey what a second Trump term would look like. They had Russell Vought speak to the media for them to articulate that, and he spoke to the Time magazine, for example, about his work on Project 2025. So strong relationships already there, but then you have, the JD Vance pick is literally one of them as far as they see it, and they're excited about it.
And the views of Project 2025 when it comes to and Vought's views on abortion, on marriage equality, Lawrence Carter?
Yeah, so again, the findings were that, for example, on abortion, they saw that their goal is ultimately a national ban. But they're pragmatic. Like Russell Vought is a pragmatic member of Project 2025, and he sees that, in his words, that would mean electoral annihilation for Trump if he committed to that. So actually, their strategy is to kind of go after abortion by kind of more executive powers, like, for example, if he was reappointed to the Office of Management and Budget, blocking that funding for Planned Parenthood. Again, like he talked about marriage equality in terms of this is kind of a fight that we need to start having, but it's one that they're further behind in compared to abortion. But the goal, again, is to kind of end marriage equality. Similarly, kind of they're pursuing various strategies to try and ban pornography. So yeah, it's quite a kind of radical agenda from a kind of social conservatism point of view, but Russell Vought is certainly on the end of the spectrum of kind of what is politically possible, rather than kind of, I guess, the Heritage Foundation approach, which is kind of, more absolutist.
Lawrence Carter, I want to thank you for being with us, founder and director of the Center for Climate Reporting. We'll link to your new investigation, Undercover in Project 2025, the secret of second phase and the radical policies set for rollout on day one. Next up, the World Health Organization declares Mpox a global public health emergency as the first cases of Mpox are confirmed. We'll get an update from Nigeria.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome to And with Sensei Al Bob. So here we are.
South Meadow to Central Station. Cross the bridge and follow the river for a half a mile until you come to a flowing creek. Wait for me in the cove. I'll get there by enough to go. Can you remember that?
Yep. Big Brother.
What could I have?
Coffee. Real coffee.
Real sugar.
Well, I would suggest you go watch this 1960 something. Let's see when it was made. Let's see if it's got that info. Let's see. Where are my glasses? So, every time I do this, I have no idea whether it's going to go up or down or round and round. But we are at this place. You know, I've been talking about the big splat for a good 5 years. My information has been pretty much right on and more in depth and less ideological than everybody else. And that's why, you know, I only have 400 subscribers. Come on, guys. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell. Get more people to watch. It'd be nice. But, you know, it's coming up soon, the election. And I have a sense if, you know, what's his name? Donald Trump was smart. He would hide in his basement like, you know, Stuffy Joe did last presidential election, right? He didn't really say much, right? And Cam's not really saying much. She's having, you know, things, and Donnie is having what he calls, you know, news conferences. And he's really not, but he is, and he's only inviting, you know, favorable media outlets. Fox and then all the other guys on the internet. It's not and you know CNN or MSNBC or any of those kind of guys. It's if it wasn't so right in our face, so clearly understandably that we're being set up, that it would be funny. And I'm sure that this is some alien planet is watching this and just howling. They think it's better than, you know, All in the Family, The Simpsons, Mary Hartman, and what were those Fox ones? Were Al Bundy and all of that rolled into one. And that's what we are. That we are that TV show. We are that amazingly stupid, moronic, but good-natured sociopaths. You know, every child, every mother, every innocent person who's died in Gaza and up there in the other parts that's supposed to have been, you know, Palestine. The United States and England and other European entities are responsible, right? And Israel, you have to realize Israel isn't Jewish, right? It's Zionist. And it's not even Zionist, it's neo Zionist, right? So it's the NICP, right? And the reason, they call it Israel is because it's a branding. It's like calling something Kleenex or Xerox, or it's a brand, right? And the brand is that you are, just like the Nazis were all about blood and earth. That's kind of the neo-Zionist motif. And you go all the way back to the 1890s when this started, and the Balfour Agreement, right? Now, all those Zionists were looking for was to be okayed as a country with a border, so they could then protect it and go up and kill people, right? And the problem that the real problem with the motif of the Arab is that they're not as dishonest as white people. They've never really, they go by their word. I mean, yes, they're stupid. They do terrible things, blah, blah, blah. They're human beings. Hey, imagine that. And, but they, when they were gypped out of, Israel gets, the Zionists get 60% and the Jordanians get 40%, and they're being violently thrown out of their homes and their lands and their businesses and such, and not allowed to really stop. And so this war in the Strip is a good example of that, because they flutter down the papers. Oh, we're going to invade any second now. Better move on. And so they move on and they put up the tent, and then they get bombed. Oh yeah, we didn't send you. You didn't get the memo. Okay. So that's kind of what's going on. And I would say they will have a ceasefire relatively soon, right? And I would say Cammie is going to make a speech next 3 or 4 days. Well, my opinion on this is that there should be a ceasefire, right? And then there will be it. And then she goes, I did this. Joe and I, we got the ceasefire done, And, anyway, just go look at that 2012 agenda. And again, that's just the surface. That's not really what they're going to do. They're going to be way, way, way off the hook compared to that. So watch yesterday's last 2 shows I did. Give them a watch. Watch that one with the Big Brother, and go watch that movie of Big Brother. What can I say? My assessment of this is that Donald's gonna, so Donald has gone off and gotten, here, let's play with this for you. So anything that comes on the internet is basically an agenda. It's an agenda affirming thing of the hidden hand, et al. And Mm. Mm. I was watching old TV, and William Shatner, he was in a lot of good stuff. I guess that's how he got to be Captain Kirk.
Of Christian nationism. But the men Vaught was talking to actually worked for a British journalism nonprofit and were secretly recording him the entire time. The nonprofit, the Center for Climate Reporting, published a video of the meeting on Thursday, offering a window into the thinking of one of the top policy minds of the MAGA movement, who's been floated as a possible White House chief of staff. On that subject, as a reminder, the White House chief of staff is effectively the second most powerful person in the federal government, arguably more powerful even than the vice president, because they control access to the president. They're basically the conduit. Think of them as the hand of the king if you're a Game of Thrones fan. They're the conduit between the president and the rest of government. So it's a very important role. Trump has publicly rejected Project 2025 as Vice President Harris's campaign has sought to tie him to some of the plan's most extreme proposals. But in private, Vaught said those disavowals were merely, quote, graduate level politics, end quote. Vaught said his group, the Center for Renewing America, was secretly drafting hundreds of executive orders, regulations, and memos that would lay the groundwork for rapid action on Trump's plans if he wins. Describing his work as creating shadow agencies, he claimed that Trump has blessed his organization and he's highly supportive of what we do. Quote, 80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies, and we're working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence, whether that is thinking through how the deportation plan would work, talking about the largest deportation plan in history, which Trump has publicly called for. Vaught has said the expulsion of millions of undocumented immigrants could help, quote, save the country. Once the deportations begin, quote, you're really going to be winning a debate along the way about what that looks like. And so that's going to cause us to get off of multiculturalism just to be able to sustain and defend deportation, right? And so it goes on like this. It keeps going, talks about the process of going undercover to get these candid answers from Russ Vought. A Trump spokesperson declined to comment on the video, but his campaign has stressed that he sets his own agenda and that Project 2025 and other conservative groups don't speak for him. So again, it goes on, and I highly encourage you to check out the full reporting and the
real struggle as to whether this result will be dude, a regular guy, nothing fancy about him, and you can put him into states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and he can talk to real, regular working class people. So I think that's a big, big help for the Democrats. Look, we're 18 days since Biden got out, 18, 19 days. All Trump and his people have been doing, well, all Trump's been doing is publicly crying since then. And he's been crying because, look, he wanted to run against Biden. He was going to beat Joe Biden. And they never really thought through the possibility that Biden could step down. Trump doesn't have a clue as to how to go after Kamala Harris. And his people don't have a clue. And all of his media cheerleaders are just echoing what Trump has been saying, which is a lot of the ugly, divisive, racist bigotry kind of crap. So they're in real trouble right now because they really don't know how to go after her. And when you think about it, and books will be written about this, like none of America wanted the Biden-Trump matchup. Two old guys and old and easy wanted that matchup. So whichever party realized that first and helped usher their bad guy or their candidate out was going to have an advantage. So Biden goes out, in comes Kamala Harris, could have almost been anybody, somebody young who can breathe and actually campaign. We always underestimated the enthusiasm that would generate. If Trump wasn't the Republican nominee and a younger candidate had gotten in 5-6 months ago, you'd see a lot of enthusiasm too. But they're stuck with Trump because Trump really owns Republican voters. Generally, all over the map, us moderates and us never Trumpers have a lot of different reasons for supporting who we're supporting. I'm generally in the camp that I was going to support whoever the Democratic nominee is. If Joe Biden were 150, I'd support him. A lot of never Trumpers are in that camp. Kamala Harris has a very left of center record. That's not my record. But I think she's grown, and I think she will move. She's already moving to the center. I think most never Trumpers and moderates are going to come home over these next few weeks and support her. Because, look, the deal is the same. Trump's an existential threat to our democracy. He can't win, period. Here's what we know for certain. Donald Trump will never accept the result. He didn't in 2020. He won't in 2024. I mean, think about that for just a minute. That is, I don't know that you can attack our democracy more than that. Every 2 years we have an election, and we all have this silent agreement that we'll all work our asses off, but there'll be winners and losers, and we all accept the verdict. Donald Trump's the first guy who's come along in American history who has said, no, I won't accept it. And what's sad is most of his supporters are with him. So he's not going to accept the result, even if he loses in a landslide. There will be violence again. There will be unrest. This great country is extremely divided. No matter who wins in November, we're still going to be at each other's throats next year. And the jury's out as to whether this great experiment can keep it together. I think it'll be different. I don't think there'll be another January 6th. But I worry about a lot of mini revolts out there. Here's the other thing. So Trump won't accept the loss. Most of his voters won't accept it. But as maybe many of your listeners don't realize it because we're so damn big, we have 50 states. Every state runs their elections. So we have 50 elections in this country. And Donald Trump has put some of his people in charge of the elections process in many, many states. So you could see secretaries of states in each state, Trump people who don't accept the results and try to screw around with the results. So you could see even within our system a real struggle as to whether this result will be accepted. But either way, there will be unrest and violence. No doubt about that. You know, I used to do a lot of radio, and I always had to watch my language when I did a lot of radio, so I can't say what I really want to say. Donald Trump screwed up when he picked Vance. He would admit that. All of his campaign people will admit that. Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance because Donald Trump is arrogant and he thought he had this election in the bag. Because again, remember, dummy, he thought he was running against Biden. If he could back, he would. If he had picked somebody like Nikki Haley, somebody like me who doesn't want Trump to win, I'd be scared to death now that Trump's going to win. So yes, they'd love to have that pick back. J.D. Vance is an utter fraud. And all he is kind of like another Trump MAGA guy. So it hurts Trump. There's been talk that Trump may even get rid of him, but he won't. Somehow Trump's going to have to overcome that because that was a really bad pick. J.D. Vance comes from Middle America, but he's an utter fraud. He barely won in Ohio. He's a wealthy dude, a Yale University grad. Tim Walz is the real thing, the real deal. And so that contrast right now.
See, this is the problem. And saying, hey, both are frauds, you know? Democrats, Republicans, two wings of the same corporate bird. They give you no choice whatsoever. Hey, you can have a donut. One with a little chocolate on top and sprinkles, and then the other one just sprinkles, another one just chocolate. And then another one that has nothing. Boy, don't you have a choice. You have no freedom, right? So that's why I gave everything away. I own nothing, have nothing. This is my friend's vehicle, right? Nice Nice whale. Nice whale. I'm like Jonah, it swallowed me up. So I would sense, because the system, the hidden hand, the high table, big brother, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure none of those are what they call themselves, but they're pretty smart, and they've been in control since Mesopotamia and before, since the Garden of Eden, and so and the devil is just their car salesman. So bottom line is the only way we can get out of this is individually, that we all, in every day, in every way, we take the piece of the earth that is co-created with God's love and our conscious intent, right? It's the covenant. So, and that magic box the Israelis had, that was the Ark of the Covenant. That was the thing that always had Israel's back. But Israel never, ever, or very infrequently, was in communications with that higher self. And that's why, a number of times they lost the war and they were taken away, right, in slavery. Babylon, Egypt, Sumer, at least 6 in our more recent history. And we're an extension of that. So get ready for someone to show up and take you away. And it's going to be, I would say, if I was going to guess, right, is that in the next, the October surprise, September's going to be full of just wild, crazy shit. And Joe Biden's still president. Sometime in October, he's going to declare martial law and say we're going to put off the election for a while. We have to calm down, and that'll be that. But that's so much stupid. Let's go around. We plenty of other, Ukraine, Gaza, Iran, Africa. There's a lot of stupid stuff that could happen that could turn this all stupid stuff that we do in America into a global event. And then there's another pandemic. I would, it'd be really great if these pandemics could get a little more creative. And if you get the bug, you turn into a monkey. I liked it when they call it monkeypox, because I had that, then you can know who had it. They'd be, and they'd be, running around like the Three Stooges. Oh, there's somebody. Let's see if I can find some glasses to read what you say here. Okay, I'm going to wear, these are somewhat glass, but they're groovy reading glasses. Warm one today. Hey, Bay City. Yeah. It's kind of warm. So, Bay City, what do you think? We're going to have martial law before elections? It's going to throw around, pretty bad. I mean, here we're almost 20 days, not 20 days, maybe 10 days that Ukraine is just pushing into Russia. And so they have displaced quite a few Russian communities, 80 or so. Those people had to run for the, get out of Dodge. And basically, it's interesting in that when Russia came into Ukraine, their army was just, beating up everyone, killing everyone, shooting everyone, stealing because they're when they left Russia to go into Ukraine, they thought it'd be over in a couple of weeks, but the people came in. Those guys didn't even have enough gas. They drove all their tanks and armored vehicles into Ukraine and then ran out of gas. And it was like, wasn't that nice of them? They gave Ukraine more armor than they had. I mean, it was so nice of Vlad to do that. And army guys, they had no provision, so they were like breaking into the supermarkets and stealing all the food and breaking into people's houses and raping and killing people and stealing the refrigerators to take home because Russia couldn't give them a refrigerator. So it's all this stuff. Like I said, this is an alien TV show, right? This is a soap opera to end all soap operas. It's kind of like an opera. Woo! I wish I'd love to see the two Vlads singing. Woo! La, 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 la. So, what do you think, Bay City? A week or so ago, I was eating in this diner, and I was, they had the big rush. And, so that nobody cleaned the table. So I started bussing the tables for the waitresses. And I cleaned off my table and I cleaned off a few other tables and went and got the rag and so I could get the smooch off my table. And then this guy came in and he started moving stuff. And I thought he worked there. He said, "No, I don't work here. Just good." I said, "Oh, no, I just cleaned this table. Why don't you sit with me?" So we started talking. And he was a working guy. And he came from Florida. And he's up here in Tennessee. And he had been in the Air Force most of his life. He flew helicopters. So for the Air Force, fly helicopters, you pretty much had to be a sergeant major or an officer. So this guy was an officer. So we talked, and my dad's an Air Force officer. I know a lot about the Air Force, know a lot about aircraft. It's one of my attractions. And we started talking. And so he kind of let his, thing up and said, I'm in the militia. I said, "Oh, it's not nice." And he goes, "Yes, well, we're 100% behind, freedom and white people." And I said, "Oh, isn't that nice?" And she said, "We're going to have a civil war." I said, "Oh, isn't that nice?" And he said, what, and I said, "Listen, buddy, Second Amendment wasn't about you having an AR, It was about back in the day, the Southern guys, each of those Southern states, there were like maybe 150,000 white people who owned plantations. And then there was like 3 million people who were black who were their slaves. So they needed a militia to keep those slaves because those slaves without weapons could kill all the white people, right? That's the Second Amendment right there. And then it grew up into the police departments, which, to serve and protect. Well, they surely aren't serving and protecting you. No, sorry. They're serving and protecting the Elon Musks and et al., right? And even those guys, Billy Micropenis and Faceless Boy and all of those guys who are like the 8 richest people in the world who own 90% of everything, they're just poster boys. They don't own squat. And they're dumber than spit, right? And that little cute conversation between Mr. X and Donnie Chimp, that like showed it right there. So it's an interesting time we live in, but it's no different than any other time. And other times, that I lived in, the 1970s were way more violent and a lot harder on the average guy than this one we have now. What's coming is going to be difficult, we're going to have the monkeypox, and the people who get it are going to start to look like monkeys, and creeping underneath their armpits, and going around naked and defecating in their hand and throwing it at you. And if that shit hits you, then you'll get the monkeypox. That's did you have sex with that person? No. Did you touch him? No. But he did take a handful of crap and throw it at me. Oh, then you've got the monkeypox. Yeah, you got the monkeypox. Sorry, we just got bam. And every morning I wake up dead, and I'm ready, and I am. God, you want to take me? Not a problem. If I'm here talking to you because God wants me to do this, it's like I am a doula of God's, right? You know what in Greek the word doula means? Slave, right? But not the kind of slaves that we are here in America. Slave to my car, slave to my house payment, slave to my cheeseburger. No, not. That's doula is you are doing your best. You are consciously intent in having a relationship, an intimate relationship with love's co-creation, right? And that's a compact that you have, right? So this little body ain't me. This little body right here is just my avatar, so I can navigate through this illusion of a material world, right? So every morning I wake up dead, and then I go, okay, so do I just turn over and I will be found a week or two later after the bear goes after the man cave because he can smell me rotting, and they find me like missing a leg or two, and um, maybe half my chest is gone, and the grubs are eating me, but I got a smile face, and I could still talk to them if the pastor wanted me to say anything, but normally no, I wouldn't want to scare them that way. But every morning I wake up at that moment, and I kind of fart, and then I'm awake, I'm alive, okay, and I do a few prayers, and then I do a few exercises, and then I get out of bed, and I go and do my tai chi and my qigong, and I walk around a little bit, and bingo bango, there I am. You know what I mean, man? And so, anybody else want to say anything? Come on, Bay. It's a warm day today, and that's a very nice little metaphor of it. Could be almost anything that you're speaking to. So be a little more specific. Go into a little more detail. How are we doing on the old battery? We got a good 20 minutes left. What time is it? Oh, it's 2 o'clock. So I'm doing this for another 15 minutes, another 10 minutes. And so it's 42 minutes and 21 seconds. And if 20, oh, no, I like that. 42 minutes and 24 seconds. I'm going to give it another 5 minutes. If we get into a conversation, I'll stick around. If not, So go watch my last 2 shows. I think they were pretty good. And want to get a hold of me? The Dudawake42 at Gmail, Dudawake42 at Gmail. And what else can I say? Oh, watch pot never boils. Here it is, 42 minutes and 52 seconds. It's like that. All of that was just 10 seconds. So I got a good 5 minutes. Hey, do I have a story in me? Well, I can tell you about going to Joseph Campbell's lectures in D.C. at Georgetown when I was hanging with this very sweet endocrinologist at the College Park, and there in whatever that little crabby state is, right where Baltimore is, Maryland, right next to DC. And I had a buddy who worked, he was a research fellow kind of guy who was at, there. And, but he had a gig through that college working at Library of Congress. So he got me a gig at Library of Congress. I was more or less just, a mail boy. But I was all kind of, and he kept saying, he's my assistant. And so I did all the crappy looking up stuff that he didn't want to do. But mostly what we did was after lunch by 1 o'clock, we pretty much had everything we had to do that day done. And we basically we wouldn't punch out or anything. We would just walk to Georgetown and talk to Joseph Campbell, and we catch his last. Joseph knew my buddy was a research fellow and good fellow, and so I was just going along for the ride until I got a nice 6 months of a good jab of Campbell. He was the sweetest, kindest kind of teacher slash scholar test, holy man that I'd come across. I mean, closest person to him, or him closest person to, was Thomas Merton, my mom's boyfriend. So, well, thanks for the one thumb up. That's always good. Thank you, Bay City. But no questions? Come on. See, oh, look, I went 1 minute on that one. I'm getting a little... See, there's going to be a big storm coming, right? But right now, it's sunny. Right? And the sunnier it is, that means the heavier the rain's going to be in about an hour or two. So I'm probably just going to skip out of here. Unless, come on, someone say something, and I will stick around. But nope, nobody's saying anything. Okay, I gotta go.